when you picture modern warfare, your brain probably goes straight to a Hollywood blockbuster, right?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone does.
Yeah, you see fighter jets screaming across a clear blue sky, or, missiles streaking toward targets.
Massive warships exchanging deafening fire.
Exactly. Or battalions of tanks just churning up the earth as they advance. It is loud, it's chaotic, and, well, most importantly, it's highly visible.
Right. Very kinetic.
But our deep dive today focuses on a briefing we recently pulled from the Strategic Vanguard. And it completely shatters that whole Hollywood illusion.
It really does. It's a total paradigm shift.
It is, because the mission today is to explore the actual reality of modern conflict, which is this invisible, completely silent electromagnetic battlefield where wars are fought, and often, entirely won before a single physical shot is ever fired.
Yeah, and we are so conditioned by movies and news footage to think of that kinetic phase of war, the explosions, the gunfire, as the beginning of a conflict.
Right, the inciting incident.
Exactly. But that kinetic phase is actually the final concluding act of a contest that has likely been raging for months, if not years.
Wow.
Before a pilot even steps into a cockpit, before any aircraft crosses into contested airspace, the most decisive phase of the operation has already happened quietly. And it happens through the interception of electromagnetic waves.
So we're talking about electronic intelligence, right? The alignment.
Exactly.
And to really wrap our heads around how this invisible war is fought, we first have to understand what exactly these militaries are looking for in the dark.
Right, the mechanics of it.
Yeah, and before we get into the heavy technical terminology, I was thinking about how to visualize this for you all listening. So imagine you're standing in the middle of a massive pitch black forest at midnight.
Okay, spooky.
Right. And you hear a noise, so you turn on a high-powered flashlight to look around.
Makes sense.
Now, that flashlight does exactly what it's supposed to do. It helps you see the trees, the path, maybe an animal in the bushes. But by turning that light on, you have instantly achieved something else. You have announced your exact location to absolutely anyone else who happens to be standing in that dark forest.
You're a beacon.
Exactly. Your tool for seeing has made you entirely visible.
I love that. That flashlight analogy maps perfectly onto the fundamental physics of military radar and sensors.
Really? Just one-to-one?
Pretty much, yeah. Every single military radar, missile guidance system, surveillance network, and, any electronic sensor has to emit energy to function.
Okay.
They are all, in essence, turning on massive electromagnetic flashlights.
Because they have to see.
Exactly. They're designed to blast energy out, have it bounce off a target, and return information to the sender. But here is the catch.
What's the catch?
The energy they emit travels much, much further than the usable return signal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so an intelligence receiver hundreds of miles away will see that beam of energy long before the radar actually detects the receiver itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because a flashlight just gives away my generic position in the books, right? Like, hey, I'm over here.
Right.
But the source material uses the term fingerprint. Are you saying that when a radar system sends out a pulse of energy, it isn't just generic static giving away a location?
No.
It's actually transmitting its own identity.
It is never just a generic pulse of energy.
I'll say.
Every time a radar system emits a signal, it is unintentionally broadcasting a highly detailed mechanical resume.
A resume.
Basically. The ELINT receivers are analyzing incredibly specific metrics. They measure the operating frequency. They measure the exact transmission power.
Okay, so a lot of data points.
Tons of them. They look at the pulse duration, too. Like, is it a long, slow pulse designed to search a wide area of the sky? Or is it a rapid, short pulse designed to tightly track a fast-moving jet?
Oh, I see.
They even measure the mechanical or electronic scanning pattern of the radar dish itself.
So they're essentially measuring the physical behavior of the machine through the invisible waves it spits out.
That's exactly it. And by capturing those specific behavioral metrics, military analysts can cross-reference them against a massive database to determine exactly what kind of system it is.
It's not just a guessing game.
No, it's highly precise. They don't just see a blip and say, there is a radar over there.
Right.
They say, that specific pulse repetition and frequency band belongs exclusively to the fire control radar of an SA-21 surface-to-air missile battery. And based on the signal strength, it's exactly 42 miles away, pointed north.
Wow. When you lay it out like that, it makes traditional visual reconnaissance look completely archaic.
It really does.
Like sending a scout up a hill with binoculars or even taking high-resolution photographs from a satellite. They have massive limitations.
Oh, absolutely. Weather alone ruins visual recon.
Right. If an adversary hides an aircraft inside thick cloud cover or, conceals a mobile missile battery under high-tech camouflage netting in a jungle, or parks a warship just over the curvature of the horizon, human eyes and standard optical cameras are completely blind to them.
Completely useless.
But if any of those hidden assets turn on their machines, they light up on the electromagnetic spectrum.
Exactly. The physical camouflage is rendered entirely useless. ELINT allows the military to detect, identify, and target an adversary when absolutely nothing is visible in the physical domain.
That's wild.
As long as the asset underneath the netting is broadcasting its electromagnetic fingerprint, it might as well be painted neon orange.
Which means the airwaves over any contested region must be completely flooded with these invisible signals.
It's a chaotic wall of static.
So a military needs a highly organized way to filter and categorize what they're listening to. Because we hear terms like SIGINT, COMMENT, and ELINT thrown around in spy thrillers all the time.
Oh yeah, constantly.
But the operational reality of how they divide this alphabet soup in the source material is really fascinating.
Untangling those disciplines is essential to understanding how a modern battlefield is actually mapped. So, signals intelligence, or SIGINT, is the broad umbrella term covering the interception of all signals.
Okay, SIGINT is the top level.
Right. But beneath that umbrella, you have two distinct complementary disciplines.
Got it.
The first is communications intelligence, or COMMENT. Just as the name implies, COMMENT is focused entirely on human-driven communication.
Like people talking.
Exactly. This is the interception of voice transmissions over military radios, satellite uplinks, and encrypted digital text messages exchanged between units.
So that is the classic eavesdropping, listening to what the human commanders are actually saying to each other.
Precisely. Now, the flip side of that is electronic intelligence, ELINT.
Okay.
It explicitly targets non-communication missions. It doesn't care at all about the radio chatter or the emails.
It's ignoring the humans entirely.
Completely. ELINT is hunting for the machines, the surveillance radars, the fire control targeting systems, the automated missile guidance links, and navigation beacons.
Okay, so to synthesize that for you listening, if COMMENT is eavesdropping on the human beings, ELINT is essentially eavesdropping on the machines talking to the environment.
That's a great way to put it. And when you layer those two disciplines on top of each other, you get a comprehensive three-dimensional threat map.
How does that look in practice?
Well, imagine you are an intelligence officer in a windowless room.
Okay.
Through COMMENT, you intercept a cryptic, panicked radio message from an enemy commander about a sudden deployment.
But they use coded language, so you don't know where they deployed to.
Right, you just know something is happening. A few hours later, through ELINT, you detect the distinct fingerprint of a mobile radar system suddenly powering up in a valley that was completely empty yesterday.
There they are.
Exactly. The human data gives you the intent. The machine data gives you the exact coordinates. You've essentially mapped your adversary's posture and capabilities without ever crossing a physical border.
But wait, if these signals are so easy to detect, putting a pilot in a recon plane near an enemy border just to listen to them sounds like a massive political and military risk.
It is a risk, yes.
How do they actually collect this data without triggering a geopolitical crisis or getting shot down? I mean, you can't exactly drive a truck with an antenna right up to the enemy border.
No, definitely not. They rely on a global, multi-layered ecosystem of what we call standoff platforms.
Standoff platforms.
Yeah, these are collection systems designed to operate safely outside the immediate threat ring. For instance, dedicated reconnaissance aircraft.
Like spy planes.
Right, but these aren't nimble fighter jets. They're often massive, modified commercial airliners bristling with highly sensitive antennas.
Oh, like big Boeings or something.
Exactly. They fly well within their own airspace or over international waters, but their receivers are so acute they can detect the side lobe emissions of hostile radar signals hundreds of miles deep into enemy territory.
So they don't even need to cross the border. And obviously it doesn't stop in the atmosphere.
Not at all. It extends all the way into low Earth orbit.
Satellites.
Yep. Satellites are continuously rolling overhead, mapping electronic activity on a planetary scale. They track how military installations change their electronic footprint over time, logging the daily habits of entire nations.
That's incredible.
And then you have naval vessels outfitted with sophisticated electronic support measures, loitering in international waters just off the coast.
Just passively drinking it all in.
Exactly. Passively drinking in the coastal radar networks and maritime surveillance systems of rival navies.
You know, the evolution of those standoff platforms is really impressive, but the source notes the shift toward autonomous platforms, the UAVs, and that seems to change the risk calculus entirely.
Oh, it completely rewrites the rules.
Because historically, flying a reconnaissance plane near hostile airspace carried the mortal risk of losing a pilot and the political risk of an international incident. We've seen spy planes shot down in the past, and it immediately spirals into a crisis.
Removing the human pilot alters the mathematics of intelligence gathering. You can send a small, expendable drone much, much closer to dangerous, highly contested airspace.
Right, to catch the signals that are too quiet for the big planes.
Exactly. To capture a very faint, highly valuable electronic signature that a standoff aircraft might miss. If that drone is detected and destroyed by an enemy missile, well, you've lost a piece of hardware.
It's a financial loss, sure.
Right. But you haven't lost a life. And you rarely trigger a full-scale war over a downed piece of plastic and silicon.
That makes sense.
It allows military planners to be far more aggressive and intrusive in how they collect this data.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Gathering this massive planetary map of electronic whispers is one thing. Having a hard drive full of radar frequencies is great for an intelligence briefing.
Sure is.
But how does a military actually weaponize that data? How do they take a... Exactly. And this is where the concept of SEED comes into play.
Yeah.
The suppression of enemy air defenses.
C is the perfect example of the invisible war dictating the outcome of the physical war.
How so?
Imagine a scenario where a military needs to launch an airstrike on a highly defended strategic target. Between their airbase and that target is a lethal interlocking network of surface-to-air missiles and early warning radar systems.
A meat grinder.
Exactly. You cannot just fly a strike package into that meat grinder.
Right.
So for weeks, months, or even years prior to this moment, military planners have been using ELINT to study the enemy's behavior and build an electronic order of battle map.
So if I have a map of their radar, I assume I can just route my flight path around their coverage zones, right? Mm-hmm. Like threading a needle.
In theory, yes.
But what happens if the radar overlaps and there is no gap to fly through? I mean, I can't just avoid it forever.
And that is exactly where the weaponization of the data happens. Because you've collected their specific fingerprints, you know the exact operating frequencies of the radars blocking your path. Instead of flying around them, you send in specialized electronic warfare aircraft alongside your strike fighters.
So if their radar is a flashlight scanning the dark room, is electronic warfare basically like shining a massive blinding spotlight directly back into their eyes so they can't see the strike fighter slipping past?
That is a highly accurate way to visualize jamming.
Oh, cool.
But to blind them effectively, you have to know exactly what color light they're using.
Because of the frequencies.
Exactly. Because of ELINT, the electronic warfare aircraft knows the exact frequency to broadcast to perfectly overwhelm and blind that specific hostile system at the exact millisecond their strike fighters pass through the engagement zone.
So the enemy operator's screen just fills with static.
Just fills with white noise. Success in a SEED mission relies entirely on superior information, not just dropping more bombs.
But let me push back on this a bit because there is an elephant in the room here.
Okay, what's that?
Doesn't the invention of stealth technology make all of this agonizing radar mapping and jamming completely irrelevant? Right. If I am flying a 5th-generation stealth bomber, the whole point of the engineering is that I am invisible to radar. The physical shape of the plane and the specialized coatings absorb or deflect the radar waves away from the receiver.
That's the design, yes.
So if my plane is functionally invisible, the enemy's radar network doesn't matter, right? Problem solved.
It is incredibly common to assume that stealth equals total invisibility, but that is a dangerous oversimplification of the physics involved.
Really?
Yeah. Stealth technology is primarily designed to mitigate the return of a hostile radar signal. It stops the enemy's flashlight from illuminating your aircraft.
Okay, I follow you.
However, what happens if that stealth bomber turns on its own active radar to scan for a target? Or if the pilot uses a high-powered radio to communicate with an AWACS plane?
They just turn on their own flashlight in the dark forest.
Bingo. The moment a stealth aircraft transmits a powerful electromagnetic signal, its physical shape and its radar-absorbent coatings no longer matter at all.
Because they're broadcasting.
Right. It has actively broadcast its fingerprint to the enemy's ELINT receivers. It's revealed its exact position, heading, and identity.
Wow.
A stealth fighter operating with its radar on is essentially a ninja screaming at the top of their lungs.
That's a great image.
Right. This is why modern aerial doctrine places such a heavy emphasis on MCON, or emissions control. Stealth only works if you operate in complete electronic silence.
That is genuinely terrifying if you think about it from the pilot's perspective.
Oh, absolutely nerve-wracking.
You are flying a multi-million-dollar jet deep into hostile territory, surrounded by enemy missile batteries, and you have to shut off your own active sensors.
You're blind.
You are basically feeling your way through a dark room filled with tripwires without turning on your own flashlight.
It requires immense tactical discipline. Pilots have to rely entirely on passive sensors, systems that only receive energy from the environment but do not transmit anything out.
Yeah.
And highly directional, secure data links that are incredibly difficult to intercept. Electronic silence itself has evolved from a basic safety precaution into a vital tactical weapon.
The weapon of silence.
Exactly. The ability to endure the battlefield without speaking, without emitting, is what keeps stealth aircraft alive.
So to bring this out of the theoretical realm, we have to look at how nations are actively preparing for this exact type of invisible warfare right now.
Definitely.
The source material highlights India as a prime example of a nation rapidly scaling up these capabilities. They aren't just buying new planes. We are seeing massive coordinated investments from the Indian Air Force, the Indian Navy, and the Defense Research and Development Organization to completely overhaul their electronic posture.
Yeah, the Indian context is an excellent case study for the future of ELINT because of their geographic realities.
Right, the terrain.
They share massive, highly contested borders with nuclear-armed neighbors in incredibly difficult terrain like the Himalayas.
You can't just put troops everywhere.
Exactly. You cannot rely on physical patrols to monitor that much hostile space. So they are heavily investing in airborne surveillance platforms, developing indigenous ground-based monitoring stations, and expanding satellite reconnaissance.
To maintain a persistent invisible stare across those borders.
Precisely.
And the mechanism they are using to tie all of this together in the briefing is what they call the Integrated Air Command and Control System. It sounds like they are building a massive digital nervous system.
That is exactly what it is. The Integrated Air Command and Control System takes the data from a naval vessel in the Indian Ocean, a drone over the mountains, and a satellite in orbit, and fuses it into a single real-time threat picture for commanders.
That's huge.
What this infrastructure signals is a fundamental understanding that any future conflict along those borders will not begin with tanks rolling across a line.
Right.
It will feature massive, heavy electronic reconnaissance and posturing long before conventional operations are even considered.
They are building the infrastructure to listen better than anyone else in the region. But as they scale up, and really as the whole world scales up this collection apparatus, there is a massive impending bottleneck.
Wow, the data fire hose.
Yes. We have planes, satellites, ships, and drones pulling in gigabytes of electronic fingerprints every single second of every single day. It is an absolute fire hose of data.
It is.
And human beings, no matter how highly trained they are at reading a screen full of squiggly lines, simply cannot process a spreadsheet that big that fast.
No, it's impossible. The sheer volume of data generated by modern sensors vastly outpaces the cognitive limits of human analysts.
Right.
I mean, what good is total battlefield awareness if your intelligence officers can't decode the data until 3 days after the battle is over?
Exactly. It's useless.
That is the critical bottleneck. And this is where artificial intelligence fundamentally alters the landscape of ELINT.
Because an AI neural network doesn't get overwhelmed by a fire hose of numbers. It doesn't need to sleep, and it definitely doesn't get eye strain from staring at a monitor for 12 hours.
AI is custom built for this exact problem of pattern recognition at scale. In the context of ELINT, an artificial intelligence model can instantly scan millions of signals across the spectrum.
Just instantly.
Yeah, it can identify a completely unfamiliar radar signature that a human might easily mistake for background noise.
Wow.
More importantly, it can detect microscopic anomalies. Say, a 2-millisecond variance in an enemy's daily transmission routine.
A human analyst would never notice that in a wall of static.
Never. But the AI classifies emitters and generates complex threat assessments in fractions of a second. But, the ultimate goal of integrating AI here isn't just to sort the data faster.
It's about looking into the future.
Exactly. By analyzing years of historical behavior patterns alongside the real-time data pouring in, AI can actually predict enemy movements and intentions.
Predictive analysis.
Right. If an enemy radar network powers up in a specific sequence that matches a deployment pattern from, say, 5 years ago, the algorithm flags it instantly.
So it's seeing the pattern before the human even knows what's happening.
The objective is to use AI to accurately predict enemy behavior before the human commanders on the other side even issue their final orders.
Man. So what does this all mean? When you take a step back and look at everything we have unpacked today, from the flashlight analogy in the dark forest, to stealth bombers flying in forced silence, to algorithms processing millions of invisible signals to map a battle space.
Still a lot to take in.
It is. It completely redefines our understanding of geography.
Yeah.
The electromagnetic spectrum is not just a scientific concept. It is a literal hidden battlefield that exists all around us all the time.
Very true.
And the victor in the 21st century won't necessarily be the one with the biggest bombs, but the one who listens the best.
It's a humbling realization about the nature of modern power, really. The evolution of electronic intelligence leaves us with a deeply philosophical reflection from the briefing.
What's that?
The wars of the future may not begin with explosions or sirens or troops mobilizing on a border. The most consequential conflicts of our era may begin with someone, somewhere, simply and quietly listening to the void.
And that leads me to a final thought for you to chew on as you go about your day. Think about the device you are using to listen to this deep dive right now. Your phone, your laptop, your smartwatch. It is emitting a signal, broadcasting its own little fingerprint into the environment.
Constantly.
We talked about how artificial intelligence is stepping in to read these electronic fingerprints on the battlefield because the data is just too massive for human minds. But if AI reaches a point where it can perfectly analyze an enemy's electronic emissions, calculate their exact capabilities, and predict their tactical behavior before an order is even given.
The logical endpoint.
Right. Will future wars be fought entirely by silent, invisible algorithms playing a game of electronic chess at the speed of light?
That's the question.
Will human commanders be mathematically outmaneuvered and rendered obsolete before a single physical shot is ever fired? In the future of warfare, the most lethal weapon might not be the drone flying overhead. It might be the algorithm that mathematically knew your device was going to be there 3 days ago. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep looking beyond the visible, keep questioning the world around you, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you for joining us on this Strategic Vanguard podcast. If you found value in this analysis, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We bring you fresh podcasts every Monday here on YouTube and Rumble, and you can also catch the audio versions on Spotify and Amazon Music. Just search for Strategic Vanguard Podcast. For more insights, articles, and discussions, subscribe to our blog at strategicvanguard.com. Your support helps us grow and bring you more in-depth analysis on defense, geopolitics, and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay strategic.